On this channel, I have been on a journey to make $10,000 doing side hustles. I have about 6 or 8 videos here on the channel of me doing various side hustles ranging from DoorDash, Uber Eats, landscaping, and the most popular and probably the most consistent thing I've been doing recently is driving for Lyft. Now, every single video that I do drive for Lyft, I have some sort of gripe about it, so it's honestly probably not the best side hustle for me to talk about, but I recently did hit a sort of big achievement and I did 100 rides for Lyft. 114 actually. And over the course on the channel, I talk about how much I make each day or each week. But in this video, I want to give a full breakdown of how much I actually netted after doing 100 rides for Lyft. So if we haven't met already, my name is Anfernee. On this channel, I talk about personal finance, investing, and side hustles. And if you think you'll find any kind of value in this video, then tap that like button for your boy, as well as hit that subscribe button if you want to see more content like this. Let's talk about the 114 rides that I did for Lyft. Now, I am personally not a professional rideshare driver. I very much only do it for the content, and it is not a way for me to pay bills because I do work a 9-to-5 job. So with that being said, my experience is not going to be that of a person who is doing rideshare full time, because I am very much able and will pick and choose when I do decide to go do rideshare driving. So with that in mind, if you are in a similar situation as me, to where you only do rideshare driving to make money on the side, or you only do it part-time every now and then this particular breakdown will be more valuable to you instead of for someone who's going out every single day trying to make money doing Lyft rides to pay their bills. But as I said, I have hit 100 trips, but those 100 trips came over the entire year of 2024. If you're watching this video in the future, it is September right now, and I just hit 100 trips all the way from January. So it's been 9 months, so I do less than 10 trips a month. But with that being said, let's get into a breakdown of the earnings. So total in the year 2024, without taking out any expenses, taxes, or anything, I made a gross $1,435.80 from Lyft in 114 rides. And this is going to equate to $12.60 per ride. Let me adjust my microphone a little bit because it seems like I'm yelling and I don't want the audio to peak out. But I don't know if this seems like a lot of money to you or a little bit of money, but either way, this number is not what I actually got to take home and to spend. And if you only care about the total amount, then you can click on this video. But if you actually want to know what my take home pay, I went through line by line and calculated exactly how much money I got to take home, how much money I made per ride, and the average of per hour. So the first thing of this $1,435.80 is that it is actually broken down into 3 ways, meaning that I made this money in 3 different ways. And the first of those ways is obviously going to be the base pay from Lyft. If you are familiar with Lyft, this is going to be the number that you get shown when you accept a ride. It could be anywhere from $5 to $11. I saw rides up to $33 at one point to go a couple hours away. But for my base pay in 114 rides, I made $962.18. And that means that the base pay that I chose to do was $8.44 per ride. Now I'm going to talk about at the end of the video why my base pay may be a little bit higher than most. I have a secret formula, if you will, that I'm going to discuss there. But before we get to that, let's talk about the second component that went into that revenue number, which is going to be the tips. Now with the tips number, I did include a couple of other miscellaneous items in that number. So that's going to be things like cancel rate bonuses when someone cancels, or I cancel because I can't pick up someone and I still get paid for that trip. And it is going to include any money that I made from the Lyft's earning commitment, where Lyft gives you a bump in pay if you make less than 70% of the passenger's payments that week. So I got a couple of those as well. In total in the year 2024, I made $110.62 from tips and miscellaneous items. That means that on a per ride basis, I made about 97 cents in tips and miscellaneous. I've noticed that tips on Lyft are not that great. Honestly, I didn't think it could get worse than DoorDash with tips, but I have become accustomed to feeling extremely lucky when I actually get a tip on Lyft. It is extremely uncommon. However, the next and the second largest way that I made money through Lyft is, it may be a little bit uncommon to me because I actually pick and choose when I go out to Lyft very carefully, and that is going to be through the bonuses. So for the bonuses on Lyft, if you are not aware, this is when they give you extra money for completing a certain number of rides. And this year I have done 2 bonuses. I've done one that I recently recapped here on the channel of me doing 30 rides for $125, but I actually did a second bonus way back in January for a video that never came out, where I did 16 rides for $238. So that means that my total earnings from bonuses from Lyft were $363 for the year. And what that means is that of that gross $1,435.80, I basically was able to make $8.44 gross per ride from the base pay and $4.16 from the bonus pay. However, this number does get frustratingly small as we get into the expenses. Now, I don't want you to leave this video thinking that you can make $1,400 on 100 rides, because that is definitely not the case. At least it wasn't the case in my book. And for a good bit of these expenses, I actually had to estimate it because I wasn't sure of the exact number, but let's get into that right away. So the very first number that you're going to take out of your gross pay is going to be the most obvious, and that is when you're driving your car for Lyft, you are going to have to pay for gas. Now, obviously, some cars are more fuel efficient than others, so some cars will spend less money on gas. And also, I actually did a couple trips in my Tesla, so I didn't have to pay for gas. But when I did that 30 trip challenge in the last month, I spent about 19.5% of my gross earnings on gas. So I just used that 19.5% to extrapolate over the entire year to get an estimate number of how much I spent on gas over the year. So my gas expense for doing 114 rides was $279.98, or as I said, it's going to be 19.5% of my gross earnings. I think that that is a pretty fair and accurate number, depending on if you're driving an extremely fuel efficient car. Even Tesla supercharging can get close to this number depending on how much you drive. However, the next thing that you want to make sure you save for, and I actually didn't do a good job of saving for this in the very beginning, but your next expense is going to be for car maintenance and wear. Now, as you're driving your personal vehicle, or as you're driving any vehicle you're doing for Lyft, there is going to be wear and tear on your car. So in order to keep your vehicle maintained, you will need to put some money aside every time you get paid for this amount. Now, honestly, I will say that I was using my 9 to 5 to maintain the car away from the Lyft earnings, but recently I am going to start to take 10% of my earnings out for maintenance and wear and tear. And if I extrapolate once again the 10% over the entire year, this is going to mean that I needed to spend $143.58 on maintenance and wear and tear this year. Now, that makes a lot of sense to me because my oil changes tend to range between $60 and $80. So that means that I would have got about 2 oil changes in 114 trips, which I think is a fairly accurate estimate. And then one of the largest expenses that I take out personally, because I don't know how it all works, honestly, is going to be for taxes. Now, I know with rideshare driving, you get some kind of special incentive, or you get some kind of special credit or deduction for the number of miles you drive. However, until I take all of these earnings to a tax professional, what I have been doing is putting aside 20% of my earnings in a separate bank account just for tax. So this number could be grossly overestimated, but what that means is that $287.16 went to taxes in my case. Like I said, I would prefer to oversave for taxes and have money left over than to undersave and have to spend money that I wasn't prepared to spend. But if you want a more accurate number, or if I actually make a video in the future about how this exactly worked, then I will refer to that. But as of right now, I haven't taken the time to really dive into exactly how rideshare driving works with taxes. But if we subtract all of those things from our gross number, that means that we netted in the year $725.08 from Lyft driving. I still personally think that that is a decent amount of money. It is definitely not something that I would drop everything and pursue full time, because with everything, with the bonus that you honestly have no control over what you get, we only made $6.36 per ride that we decided to give. And if we didn't get any bonuses or tips and we still did 114 rides, it is estimated that my per trip earnings would have went down to $4.26 per trip, which, depending on how busy your area is going to be way less than minimum wage. So I don't know if that was more or less than the number that you were expecting, but that is my real earnings. However, at the end of this video, I want to give you some quick tips on how I was able to maximize my earnings and even earn maybe $300 to $400 more than most people would have doing the same 100 trips that I did. And my very first tip is that you want to always make sure that you are driving during peak hours. I unfortunately had the experience of driving during non-peak hours and during peak hours, and in one of my most recent videos, when I was driving during non-peak hours, I was only able to do 5 trips in 5 hours. And given that there just wasn't enough rides available, I only earned $30 in those 5 hours, whereas on the next day, which was a busy Saturday, I did 20 trips in 12 hours, and I was able to earn over $200 that day, given that it was with bonuses. But the fact is that the rides were coming back to back to back. I didn't even have enough time to end the trip before I was queued up for the next trip. And for someone who wants to make the most of their time and doesn't want to sit around just waiting for rides, I would definitely recommend finding out when is the busy times in your area and only focusing on driving during those. There's an old saying that you make 80% of your output from 20% of your input. So just because you can go sit in the parking lot for 2 hours doesn't mean that you should, because you could be using your time more efficiently, especially with Lyft. Also, I would say that driving after 6 p.m. was definitely more beneficial to me, because driving from 3 to 6 p.m. I was just stuck in a lot of traffic jams. I was only able to do 1 or 2 rides, whereas after 6 p.m. when everybody had migrated home, I was really able to beat out a large number of rides and get to my goal very quickly. And then, speaking of goals, the next way that you can maximize your earnings is by making sure that you monitor the challenges that Lyft offers and hitting those challenges. I know $125 for 30 rides may not seem like a lot of money, but if you are driving for Lyft, that can dramatically increase your base pay and your earnings rate simply by hitting those earnings. So what I do, since I only drive for Lyft to make these videos, is every couple of weeks I try to give a couple rides just so I can get those bonus offers, because if you are inactive on Lyft, you won't get any bonus offers, or so I'm told. So I'll do 1 or 2 trips a month just so I can be active, and then I'll sit back and see if I can get a good bonus offer. And if I do get a good bonus offer, for me, that is an interesting video that I can talk about. And even more realistically, it is a good opportunity to make extra money since the base pay on Lyft isn't all that great. So I definitely say keep a lookout for those challenges and bonuses if you want to maximize your earnings, and make sure that you complete the challenge so that you can get your bonus. However, the third tip I would say is that be a good reader of body language and also keep your car clean. So having an overall friendly and accepting work environment or car environment is going to be great of you getting 5 stars. Now, I don't know how friendly I am because I don't get a lot of tips, but I do get a lot of 5-star ratings because I tend to try to reflect whatever body behavior that my passenger is in. So if my passenger is a really talkative person, then I would transform myself into a talkative person, asking them about their day, what's going on in their life, different things like that. But if my passenger is more of the silent type, then I don't try to be overly aggressive and start a conversation. I may greet them when they get in to get a feel for how much they want to talk. If they don't, that's fine with me, but if they do, I'll just roll with the flow. I think that helps with me getting more 5-star ratings, and also it could possibly help with me earning more money as well. But my last tip is something that you may not be able to have control over, and it is going to be to use a gas efficient car. Now, my Jeep Cherokee isn't the best on gas. It gets about 25 to 27 highway miles per gallon, which is decent, but if it was a smart car, even a more fuel efficient car where I was getting 40 to 50 miles per gallon, I could probably cut my gas expense in half, and therefore could have made about $100 to $150 more this year on the same 114 rides. Like I said, I don't take Lyft too seriously, so I'm not going to buy a fuel efficient car just for Lyft. But if you were trying to seek this as a full-time source of income, I would say go get a Prius or something small and fuel efficient and have at it with that. But with all that being said, if you found any kind of value in this video, make sure you tap that like button for your boy, as well as subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. I will be continuing the Side Hustle Saturday series until I make $10,000. Now, it is starting off pretty slow, but I have some plans that I can snowball once I actually have a little bit of money stored up. So stay tuned for those videos, and I'll see you in the next one, guys.